In this video, we're going to look at the non-calculator paper for entry level 3, set 3. So in question 1 here, Rosie buys a new mobile phone. The phone costs £350. She gets 1/5 off the cost of the phone in a special offer. And Rosie thinks she saves more than £60 with this offer. Is Rosie correct? So the big thing that this question is testing is when it says this bit here, she gets 1/5 off the cost being £350. It's seeing if you know how to find 1/5 of 350. So what does 1/5 mean? Well, what that means is that it wants you to divide 350 by 5. (350) divided by 5, because what it's saying is that the entire cost of the phone is £350. So the phone costs £350. And when it says 1/5 of the cost, what it's saying is you imagine that cost of the phone is split up or divided into 5 equal parts. And each one of those 5 parts of the cost is 1/5 because it's one out of the total of 5 parts of the cost, you see. So 1/5 just means 1 out of 5 parts. So if we divide 350 by 5, we will find 1/5 of the cost because we'll find what 1 out of those 5 parts are. So 5 into 3, we cannot do that. So we can put a 0 there or leave it blank. So then we've got 5 into 35. So how many times does 5 go into 35? So if you know your times tables, great. If you don't, just keep adding up in 5s and see how many times you need to do that to get to 35. So if you kept adding up in 5s, you would find that 7 5s give you 35. So we put a 7 there. And then we're left with a 0. So we put that 0 here. And that tells us that 1/5 of 350 is £70. And the question said that Rosie thinks she saves more than £60 with this offer. Well, 70 is more than 60. So yes, Rosie is correct. So we need to tick yes down here because it says tick the correct answer. And we need to make sure we put the 70 here next to the pound sign. All right, so that's our first question. Question 2 says Rosie gets a mobile phone contract for 12 months. She needs to pay £26 each month. All right, so 12 months, £26 each month. So every month she's paying £26 for 12 months. How much does she need to pay in total for 12 months? So what it's testing here is whether you know that you need to do and whether you can do 26 times 12. So ideally you'll do that using long multiplication by saying 2 times 6 is 12. So put the 2, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4. Plus the 1 makes 5. So now we've finished multiplying by the 2 because we've done 2 times 6 and then 2 times 2. So because I've now finished with that 2, I can just cross that 2 out. Now I need to multiply by the 1. But because the 1 is in the tens column and not the units column, remember what we need to do underneath is put a 0. And then we can say 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. And now, if we add those two answers together, we've got the answer to the question. So 0 plus 2 is 2. 5 plus 6 is 11. So we put 1 and carry 1. And then 2 plus that 1 makes 3. So Rosie needs to pay £312 that month. Now, if you don't like long multiplication, remember you can do it using the box method. So you can do it by saying 26 is the same as 20 and 6. 12 is made up of 10 and 2. Then we can draw our grid. And then we can say, well, 10 times 20. Well, if 1 times 2 is 2, and then we've got 2 zeros there, so we put those 2 zeros on the end. That makes 200. 10 times 6. Well, if 1 times 6 is 6, put that 1 0 on the end, so that's 60. 2 times 20, well, 2 2s are 4. We've got 1 0 to put on the end, so that's 40. And 2 6s make 12. So now these four numbers, add those together. So 200, 60, 40, and 12. Add those together and we get exactly the same answer that we had before, 312. There is a third way you could do this, 26 times 12. So the other way you could have done it is you could have said, well, if I'm going to do 26 times 12, if I do 26 times 10 and 26 times 2, because 10 and 2 together make 12, then effectively I'm doing 26 times 12. So 26 times 10 is easy because you just put the 0 on the end. And then two 26s, so you could just add two 26s together, would give you 52. And then all you would need to do would be 260 plus 52. And again, you would get your 312. So whichever one of those three ways you do it, you're going to get the right answer. So just do it based on what you prefer. Question 3. Rosie can send up to 500 text messages in 30 days. So up to 500 text messages in 30 days. She wants to send the same number of messages each day. So she consistently wants the same number of messages every day. What's the greatest number of messages she can send each day? So we want to know how many messages at most she can send every day. If she's going to send the same number of messages every day, And she can send up to 500 in 30 days, no more than 500, a maximum of 500. And we've got to say how many messages will be left over. So what it's really wanting you to do here is division. It wants you to do 500 divided by 30. Because if you can do 500 divided by 30, you can work out the answer to this. So 30 into 5, you obviously can't do. 30 into 50 is going to go once. And because 1 times 30 makes 30, you're going to have 20 left over. Because 50 take away 30, of course, is 20. So that 20 you've got left over, you can put here. And then we've got 30 into 200. If you know your times tables, great. If you're not sure, just keep adding up in 30s. Until you get as close as you can to 200 without going over. If I added another 30 here, I'd have 210, which would be too many. So here, what we can see is that 6 lots of 30s make 180. So 6 lots of 30s make 180. And then 200 take away 180 is 20. So our answer here is that they can send 16 messages each day, and they're going to have 20 messages left over. With 16 messages every day for 30 days is going to make 480 messages. That would be 116 times 30. That would be 480 messages, and there's going to be 20 messages left over. All right, so that was a division question. So the big aim of entry level 3 really is to try and get you happy with using division, because it's a skill at the higher levels that you're going to need to be able to use quite a lot. And then the final question, question 4. Rosie sends 417 text messages in the first month. Calculate the difference between 500 and 417. So to calculate the difference between those two numbers, that is subtraction. So 500 take away 417. Well, 0 take away 7 we can't do. And we can't borrow 1 from the 0 next to it. So because we can't borrow 1 from the 0, just look at that as 50. So include the 5 as well. And borrow 1 off the 50. So if we borrow 1 off 50, if we take 1 away, that becomes 49. Then the 1 we borrow goes there. Then it's 10 take away 7 is 3. 9 take away 1 is 8. And 4 take away 4, of course, leaves us with nothing. So the difference, there's no answer box on that one, so just show it in the working out. The difference is 83. All right, so that's our entry level 3 calculator paper. So as you can see, there's a big emphasis. It's largely about, can you add, subtract, multiply, divide, doing those basics of the 4 rules. And also with that, we had a little bit of simple fractions. When you've got a fraction that's got a 1 on the top, do you know what to do? And that is also testing division, because it's, well, if you divide by the 5, that's how to get the solution. Okay, that's the end of that paper.